This is Michael Spedden, and welcome to Fowl Players Radio, your one-stop shop for all of your pop culture needs. We feature interviews from musicians, actors, comics, dancers, authors, and much, much more, up-and-coming artists and beloved favorites. We've got it all, people on stage, backstage, out front, and behind the scenes. Sit back and relax. Let's have some fun.
Hi, this is Kathy Ladman, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio, the place where you get all of your good news information. Not really, but it's just a great show.
Hey, Mary Jo Peel here, and you are listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hey folks, Michael Spedden here, and welcome back to Fowl Players Radio. Tonight, our guest is Stefanie Leder. She is the author of Love, Coffee, and Revolution, a novel, a great new book that she's apparently been working on for a while now, and it's been it was released this past summer. And it's a great book, like I had mentioned. It was a really enjoyable read, a fun read. I think you'll really like. It's a good vacation book, like we kind of said during the interview. She also has a long career as a showrunner and a writer. She's written for the MTV teen drama Faking It, the TBS comedy Men at Work, Netflix Boo Bitch, and the long-running ABC family comedy Melissa and Joey. She's also teaches writing at the college level at the University of California, Riverside, in the MFA, the grad school program over there for writing. And she's a really interesting guest. And her father, Reuben Leder, was a guest a couple of seasons ago. He was our guest on season 7, episode 58. And he's also a TV writer who's written, for things like The Incredible Hulk, Magnum PI, Kung Fu, The Legend Continues, and a whole bunch more. So this is a really great episode. Stefanie Leder, her book can be found at stefanieleder.com. And that's STEFANIE LEDER, stefanieleder.com, and links to her website and her IMDb page and everything will be found in the show notes. So folks, again, thanks for tuning in this week. Hit that like and subscribe button and tell a friend, and we'll be back right after these words with Stefanie.
Hello, this is John Piet,
Kevin Schmidt,
and Jerry Bozick.
And we're August, a little band from Virginia. You can hear our story, other stories from the legendary Baltimore, D.C. music scene, and much, much more with Michael Spedden on Fowl Players Radio. You can find it at www.fowlplayersradio.com, on YouTube, and wherever you find podcasts online. Keep rocking.
Hey, this is Brian Damage from Kicks and Rhino Bucket, and you're listening and watching Fowl Players Radio.
And welcome back to Fowl Players Radio. Michael Spedden here. And tonight, we have a very special guest. All of our guests are very special for choosing to come onto this show. But, she's a special person as well. She's written a most excellent book that I've just read, Love, Coffee, and Revolution, a novel by Stefanie Leder. And Stefanie is a second-generation guest on Fowl Players Radio. A couple of years ago, you may remember, I had her father, Reuben, on the show. He is also in show business, in the television business, as we'll find out about Stefanie. And she has great things to tell us tonight about her book and lots of other things going on. So welcome, Stefanie. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be the second leader as a guest.
Exactly. The leader following the leader, right?
That's right.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you probably heard that more times than you ever care to hear at all, right?
The most fun thing we have is that when we play ping pong,
Mm-hmm.
our tradition is advantage leader.
Right. There you go. There you go. So you have a great new novel out. And I was reading, the book itself, and I was also reading a bit of your notes inside the cover. There's kind of a summary inside the front cover of the plot. And then in the back, there's a bit about you. Not only are you the author of this book, but you're also a showrunner and a writer, which we'll talk about in a bit here. A number of television shows that have been around. And I guess this book also is sort of autobiographical in a way because the character, you've been involved in similar things, and you did spend some time in Costa Rica, so you're well aware of the industry and some of the problems that they may have.
It's definitely inspired by my experiences. The actual plot is entirely fictional, and
Hmm.
most of the characters are entirely fictional. But I
Right.
did live in Costa Rica, and I did work in the nonprofit world. So yes.
Sure, sure. So reading this book here, I had no idea that getting a cup of coffee, from the plantation or wherever it's grown, at the farm, we would say, um, to your coffee maker or to your house, there's so much involved, and there's so many things that are in play when it comes to this. And you definitely have some experience in that. Did you want to tell us a little bit about that, maybe?
Sure. I'm really excited to hear that, because one of the reasons I wanted to write this book in this setting is to let people know, because it's something that we're not really taught about. It's something that's not discussed a lot, which is the conditions under which the things we consume here are produced, right? So, did you want me to talk about the book or about coffee conditions?
Oh, you could talk about both,
Okay.
and how they tie together too, if you
Yeah,
like.
sure. All right. Well, so the book, it is about a young woman who drops out of college. Her name is Dee Bloom, and she drops out of college because she's feeling extremely stifled. She's
Mhm.
feeling controlled by her father and her boyfriend. And by the
Yes.
way, my real life father, who's a guest, does not control me. So this is a fictional element. Actually, the dad in the book is really nothing like my dad, except for the talk about baseball. That's the only part that's really
Oh
different.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so she feels controlled. She feels like her family's making decisions for her. She feels like her life hasn't started. That is real to me. For some reason, when I was a young person, I didn't feel like my life had started. I feel like a lot of young people feel that way. Like they say now, like they're not the main character in their own life. And that is how I felt. And that's how this character feels. So she goes on a whim and gets a job in Costa Rica organizing tours of eco tours of coffee farms. And she was an organizer, student organizer. And she's very idealistic. She tends to put people and movements and ideologies on pedestals, which that's also an autobiographical
Hmm.
element. Um, and she's kind of she engages in real black and white thinking, which I think is really dominant, unfortunately, in our culture right now, like left
Yeah,
and
I
right.
agree.
Yeah. So when she gets there, she finds out the good guys aren't as good as she thought they were. The bad guys are as bad as she thought they were.
Mhm. Right, right, right.
Some good guys are bad guys, some good guys are good guys. And she just realizes that it's a lot more complex than her naive assumptions about what's right and wrong. Um, And so she has to, when she finds corruption in one of the networks, she has to figure out how to take it down and if she has the guts, because she is a scared, anxious young woman who has been controlled, who has never felt in control of her own life or the main character of her own life. And now she's facing circumstances that are legitimately dangerous and that affect a lot of people's livelihoods. So she has to get the courage, she has to grow up to do the end of the story, which we won't spoil. So, what I learned about coffee, so the backstory is twofold. When I was a student at Berkeley, I did a year as an exchange student in Costa Rica, and I loved living in Costa Rica. Have you ever been there, Michael?
I have to say no. I've
Really?
seen her on TV, but
Yeah.
that's really it.
It's phenomenal. It's like incredibly diverse geographically. There's volcanoes, there's rainforests, there's cloud forests, there's beaches. There's a Caribbean side, the Pacific side are different. The people are really friendly and they're really welcoming to foreigners, and they're welcoming to foreigners coming learning their language. So when I went there, I technically spoke Spanish. I had to pass a pretty high level exam to be accepted into the program
Hmm.
because we weren't studying Spanish. We were studying our regular major in the university there, right? So you had to already be fluent. But reading and writing a language is totally different from speaking it and from
Oh, it is.
understanding it. Yeah. And when someone is speaking rapidly, and in an accent that you're not familiar with, it's really challenging. And
Hmm.
so one of my grandmothers was Belgian. She's no longer alive. Um, and she spoke French, obviously. And I remember when I was learning French, I would speak French to her and she'd be like, quoi? Quoi? Because
Yeah.
with the French, if you don't have it right, they're not interested. In Costa Rica, they were encouraging and friendly and helpful with my bad Spanish,
Hmm.
which eventually became good Spanish. Um, so I lived there. I did not work on a coffee farm there, but I did tour coffee farms because it's one of the number one exports in Costa Rica is coffee.
Hmm.
Then I graduated college and I worked as an organizer in a couple of different capacities. I was a union organizer for a little while. I was a community organizer at a nonprofit, and I worked in an anti-sweatshop campaign. That was against the Gap, actually, because the Gap was producing their clothing in really atrocious conditions overseas. They were lying and said it was made in the US when it wasn't. It was
Hmm.
made in, like, a US protectorate. Um, People didn't have bathroom breaks. It was really abusive. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
we organized a boycott of the Gap, and until they signed a code of conduct, which they did, and they really brought up their standards. So I now feel comfortable buying clothing from them. Um, but we also had a fair trade coffee campaign. And so when I realized I wanted to write a book, which came in a kind of strange way, because as you know, my father's a writer, but I didn't study writing. I didn't intend to be a writer. Um, I was a professional radical. That was my job. I thought I wanted to be a politician or a labor lawyer. I was trying to
Hmm.
figure that out. And my former stepfather, Peter McKeon, who's a music producer and engineer, he actually produced Men at Work's albums, so you may know his work. Incredible.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was in middle school. Yeah, I remember Men at Work very well. Who Can It
They're
Be
amazing.
Now and Overkill, and is that the album you're talking about?
He definitely did the one that had Who Can It Be Now?
Hmm.
And I think that was called I don't know what it's called. Wasn't it called Men at Work, or was it called Overkill?
You know
It
what
may
I'm going
have
to
been
do? I'm
both.
going to wake up in the middle of the night and I'm going to know
And
the
remember,
album name.
yeah. Anyway, I was having coffee with Peter McKeon. I just graduated like a month or two
Hmm.
ago. And he's like, you should write a book about your experiences in Costa Rica. And I was like, I'm not a writer. I don't know. He's like, well, maybe you are. And you should think about it. And so I
Right.
started writing, and I just the coffee is what seemed to make sense to me in this Costa Rican setting, the coffee plot. And I was, maybe still am, but I was particularly political at that point in my life, and I really wanted to tell a political story because it's a coming of age story, but it's coming of age through a political story, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that is how that came about. I wrote the book. My dad read every draft, which was a lot of drafts. The
Oh
very
yeah.
first draft. So my dad is great at giving notes because he was a showrunner for many years. And there's something in Hollywood, and it's the shit sandwich, which is you start with the bread, which is the compliments. You've done this so well. Then the shit is the criticism, and then you
Hmm.
end with more bread, more compliment, right? So the bread was congratulations on finishing a book. And then it's just criticism, criticism, criticism,
Mm.
criticism. But
Did you get it down from a double decker down to
yeah, to a
single
single.
layer?
Yeah. But because he's really good at it, at giving notes, it wasn't demotivating, it was motivating. I
Hmm.
did feel proud. I didn't feel like I did a bad job. I was like, yeah, I finished a book. All right.
Hmm.
Remember, I was 22 too, or 23 maybe at that point.
Right.
So I rewrote it a couple times. I got an agent. It went out on submission. I got all these beautiful rejection letters and no offer. And I was crushed. And I was 25. And I was like, I am a failure.
Well, yeah, I understand the feeling like that because when I was about that age, the record industry tore me a new one.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing. You think you really have a good one, you're drawing a crowd. You're proud of what you're doing. You think it sounds good, but nobody wants it,
Yeah.
and that's I understand how you feel about that. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to connect, to find your audience. I feel like there's an audience for almost everything. It's about finding it. So I put the book away. I taught ESL. I was a waitress. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I became a television writer. And then I've been a television writer for, I think, 15 or 16 years. And during the pandemic, I had never given up on this book. I had always felt like I would publish it one day. You know, I had a writing teacher. His name is Todd Goldberg, and he's a multiple times over New York Times bestseller. He's a great writer. And he always said, don't give up on publishing this. You can publish this book. This is a good book. So during the pandemic, TV slowed down a little. And so I'm like, I'm going to rewrite it. So I'm a better writer. I've been writing professionally for 15 years at this point. I was 23 when I wrote the first draft, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I rewrote it. I got an agent and sold it to Blackstone, which they've been amazing. It's been a great situation. And, you know, the process of rewriting the book as an adult, when I wrote it as a very young adult, as you know, because you read it, it's in her voice. It's in a young person's voice. I had to make sure not to make her too smart and not make her, you know, a 40-something-year-old woman, which is what I am. And I
Right,
know
right.
one of the reviews is like, she's so naive. I'm like, yeah, she's 21. She makes
Sure,
bad
yeah.
choices. I'm like, yeah, it's a comedy. Like that is, I feel like
Right.
that is the point of it. You make bad choices and then you learn. That's the journey.
Oh, believe me, that was the story of my life when I was that age too. You
Yeah.
know, we all do. We all do, you know. And you did do that very well, I think. You know, you were able to keep and I wasn't aware that you had started this, you know, back in those days when you were that age, but yeah, I mean, you really kept I could definitely tell it was coming from the mind of a 21, 22-year-old person. Um, just full of, you know, energy, full of wanting to go out and make a change, make their own mark. And I could definitely see that in the book. And I could tell, you know, and then again, just reading the little bit about you and the things that you had been involved with, you know, just where that energy came from. You really had an accurate, I think, portrayal of that energy and, you know, motivating the things that are really important to you, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it was an interesting journey because I was so much more radical when I was younger.
Sure, we all were, I think,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
right. There is some group of people that goes the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was actually in the last or second to last rewrite, now as a grown up, that I really started to change my politics a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because one of the characters, Adrian, who's one of the love interests, is centrist or maybe a little bit right. You know,
Sure, yeah.
politics there don't map one to politics here. It's not like Democrat, Republican, right? They have their own parties.
Yeah.
But he's more centrist. He's more business oriented, and something that I've learned as a writer, which maybe I didn't, you know, think that much about when I was 22 or 23 from a craft perspective, is you have to give all of your characters a good argument, even if you don't agree with them, right? You have to be fair to your characters.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to try and understand Adrian. Like, I don't agree with him, but I want his arguments to be good. I want to understand him. So my husband is a bit more centrist and he's not American. He's from Australia of Chinese descent. And my best friend is Mexican and Australian, and they both went to business school. And so I'm like, what is your perspective on macroeconomics? You know, what is your perspective on free trade? What is your perspective on, you know, floor ceilings and or floors for prices? And they had totally different perspective than me, which ended up in Adrian's mouth, right? And I thought it was important to listen to people that didn't grow up here, right? Because we have a different perspective on trade, being in one of the wealthiest nations in the world that has a
Yeah.
lot of power and can use that power to profit consumers, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But we're not seeing the effects of people making $1 a day or $2 a day, right? That are harvesting the coffee. So through the process of trying to understand the character, I developed a more nuanced perspective on trade, which was a surprise to me.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it really does. That must have been a great resource having your husband and your friend to ask about these things because they're seeing these things every day. I mean, this is life in some of these countries, you know. And I understand where you're coming from too when you're talking about conditions and things like that. my line of work, I'm in occupational safety and health,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my day job. I know you all, I know everybody listening, you think I'm some millionaire because of the cups of coffee, pardon the pun, that I've had, on TV and stuff. But hey, the best showbiz advice I ever got was don't quit the day job, and I haven't. So, but what I do is, I work with an insurance company right now to help companies design programs so that people aren't getting injured. But I've worked in house, I've worked in HR departments, I've done training, and I also taught at the college level for 6 years. And I know a lot of the history. I know how, I know how things were 100 years ago. We've all heard of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. We've all heard of, oh, what was that? Bhopal over in India. We've heard of environmental things too. Love Canal, New York, Times Beach, Missouri. A lot of these other places were just really irresponsible. And I did like, by the way, I did notice in the book too how and I hope this isn't a spoiler. This isn't a big part of the plot, but you took a soil sample
Oh
and they
yeah.
rejected it, because of, yeah, hey, I'm like, yeah, they would have, because yeah, it would have been some proof, but yeah, you're right, that was, but I understand a bit, how conditions are. And plus I've worked some, if you've ever watched the show Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe,
Oh, I
I've
know you're
worked
talking
some,
about, yeah.
I've worked some dirty jobs, making 335 an hour,
Mm,
and I left that job and went to another one because they were paying four. Uh,
yeah.
so, yeah, I understand. I totally get where you're coming from on that. And in some of these, and I see it a lot now in construction too, in this country, we have a lot of people coming from these areas that are working in construction. Usually, what they're doing is some skilled, some unskilled, a lot of what these folks do: roofing, drywall, framing, and then a lot of them are getting into the skilled, getting into apprenticeship programs and things like that. But yeah, you see a lot of safety violations from them because a lot of them, they don't know any better. When you see somebody not checking their ladder or not standing on their ladder properly or doing something where they could fall, I got to remember sometimes before I correct them, hey, look, these guys work in countries where people, work in steel mills in their bare feet,
It's interesting,
you know?
a company is always going to want the minimum, as you probably know very well, they're going to want the minimum safety requirements that they can get away with, right? So if it's not mandated
Mhm.
federally or by the state, it's unlikely to be upheld. But also, there's cultural differences. Like, my husband's
Yeah.
Australian. They're
Hmm.
like, we're teaching my kid to play catch. He's like, I don't need a mitt. Like,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
just like, if it's not a great white shark, it's not a problem. And if it is a great white shark, it's still not a problem.
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
So people
Well,
have different attitudes to danger as well.
yeah, I know what you mean by that. In my experience, though, too, I do see a lot of people that you really do embrace it, because, and, as you had mentioned too, and I think you had mentioned your character had kind of said in the book, um, people start to see that if they're not paying regards to it, whether they particularly care about the people personally or not, it does affect their bottom line. And I think one of the characters was actually talking about that, having a good, better conditions, for the people working at their farm. But as you soon find out, well, I'm not going to say anything else because I'm not going to spoil the book for everybody. But yeah, what you were saying, yeah.
Yeah, I think some companies have realized that and they've profited off it by
Mhm.
being more respectful of their labor force and being more respectful of the environment for sure.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. But this was definitely an enjoyable book, and I wish you all the best with it, for sure.
Thank you.
So Love, Coffee, and Revolution, Stefanie Leder. Um, and I have a bunch of other things I want to talk to you about more too, and we can come back to where people can
Sure.
get the book. I've both read and listened to it, and your reader, had mentioned earlier before we had started recording, your reader was a good reader.
Yeah, Inez del Castillo, she's amazing. She's won, I'm forgetting the name of the Audible award. I think it's an Audie for not for this book, but for other books. She's just incredible. And I felt like she I'm a comedy writer, and this is mostly a comedy, but there are dramatic moments, and she really made them, in my opinion, more dramatic than I
Hmm.
had. Like the
Yeah.
way she read it, she was so good. I just felt really lucky to get her.
There was one line in the book, and again, I'm not going to give it away, but there was, if I can just reveal one line that just cracked me up.
Please.
It was, there was a car accident scene,
Hmm.
and somebody called the ambulance, and they said that the ambulances are like the tooth fairy. You have to lose a body part for them to show up.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it.
Thank you.
I
I
really,
did
that
miss
that
that.
really made me laugh.
I'm glad. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I mean, I lived there a long time ago, so I don't know if it's really like that now, but yeah,
Hmm.
that's what it was like.
Right. Well, wonderful. Well,
That's what it's
wonderful.
like getting the police here. It takes 20 or 30 minutes for the police to come here in LA if you call them.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess, yeah. Yeah, I guess that
That's
that
just because they're understaffed. I mean,
mhm. And as traffic is bad out there as it's as they say, I yeah.
I mean, since the pandemic, it's a little bit better because now a lot of people have hybrid work from home, work in the office. So
Yeah,
they'll work
right,
from home
right.
a couple of days, office. But yeah, traffic is bad.
Hmm. And again, too, I live in the Baltimore, D.C. area too. And
You've got traffic there too, right?
oh yes, we do. Yes, again, yeah, I've never driven in that. I've never even been to L.A., but I just see on TV, it's just I see like, 4 or 6 lanes wide, just bumper to bumper all the time is what it looks like.
Oh, 100%. That is what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awful. That's awful. So, what I'd like to ask you about here too, you had mentioned, writing. You never thought you were going to be a writer.
Mm-mm.
How did you end up working in television, writing?
Um, so as you know, my dad is a TV writer.
Hmm.
One of my aunts is a director, and my other aunt is a casting director.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was living in an apartment in Sherman Oaks, which is here in the valley. I was waitressing at two different restaurants. I was teaching ESL, and I was writing a screenplay. And I was talking to my Aunt Geraldine, who's a casting director, and I said, I'm broke. Like I have to move out of my apartment. I even with the two waitressing jobs and the ESL job, I couldn't afford it. And she was like, have you ever thought about TV? I was like, no, I don't have a TV. She's like, what
Thought
do you
about
mean
buying
you don't have
one,
a
but
TV?
yeah, I'm broke.
Yeah, she's like, what do you do? I'm like, I listen to NPR and I play the piano. I was so snobby, you know. But it's true. That's what I did. I listened to NPR. I played the piano. I drank wine, smoked cigarettes, which don't tell anyone.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's it was fun. I was living like this romantic artist life in my mind, I guess, but I was totally broke. And so my aunt's like, look, let me introduce you to someone. Why don't you think about it? Because, half of our family works in TV. So she introduced me to a guy who was a script coordinator on a multicam. And a script coordinator is an assistant position um, that's actually quite technical and quite difficult. And they have to keep track of all the changes in the scripts and coordinate with the production departments. So I had coffee with him and, I didn't realize this because I was just having coffee with an assistant. But actually, if you're trying to break into Hollywood, it's really hard to even meet people that could even help you in any way, right?
Mhm.
So he said, hey, do you want to come shadow me for a week? And I thought, sure, why not? So I came to work with him every day for a week on this multicam called Stacked. And that was Pamela Anderson in a bookstore with Elon Gold, I think. And it was really quite funny. The showrunner Steve Levitan, who did Modern Family amongst other great shows. And I had so much fun. I had the best time. I'm like, wow, this is so much more fun than politics.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then, that week passed and I went back to being broke. I moved in with my grandmother, actually, my dad's mom, which is its own funny story, which is really wonderful. Um, and then this guy called me and he said, hey, our writer's assistant has moved on from this position. They're interviewing. Do you want to come in and interview? I said, sure. And of course, I had a massive leg up because they all knew me. I had sat in that room for an entire week, right? So they hired me. and I loved it so much. I learned a ton about writing comedy. You know, my dad's very funny, but he writes 1 hour, which is just a little bit different structurally, right? Like sitcoms have their own rhythms and structures, and I learned a ton about it. And so then I was an assistant for a couple of years. Basically, the way assistants move up to writer, it's not like a normal profession where you just move up. You're only going to move up if they feel like you're the best writer that they can hire for the position. And as you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
music, tons of competition. And there has to be a role to move up into. So I had a string of bad luck. I was on a bunch of shows that got canceled because what shows often have is a freelance script, which is one script that doesn't go to the writers in the room. And that's how you test out new talent. That's how you test out if the assistants are good enough to be hired as writers, right? Finally, after 3 years as an assistant, I got on a show called 10 Things I Hate About You, which is the TV version of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Heath Ledger and the young lady. Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
that was the movie version. So this was the TV version. It was on ABC Family. And the showrunner, Carter Covington, asked to read one of my scripts, one of my samples, and he loved it. And then he hired me. And then that's how it happened. And since then, I've been a TV writer. But it was, yeah, it was my aunt going, while you're so broke.
Right.
Got to get a job that pays more than like $8 an hour, or whatever waitressing was paying at the time, right?
Mm.
Plus tips.
It's tough. It's tough. We all pay our dues. You know, we all pay our dues in this business.
You sure do. Yeah, I paid them for a long time.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
now it's even worse for people breaking in. It's really bad right now.
it's tough. I mean, there's nothing easy about this business at all. Yeah, I've had a couple of cups of coffee on some network shows here that were filmed here in the East. You know, the Gotham. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I did that one. The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt
I
movie.
love that show.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was in the
I love
movie.
the movie. I'll have to watch and look for you.
Yeah, it's on the movie's on Netflix and it's under the title Kimmy versus the Reverend.
Oh, okay.
And there was a the scene that I'm in, and again, this is your interview, not mine, but I'll just tell you this real quick. And there was a scene where they go to a like a redneck bar,
Mm-hmm.
Kimmy and Titus, and Titus ends up singing Freebird by Leonard Skinner with the
Right.
band. And I'm the
Yeah.
bartender, and I had a couple of lines with them.
Oh,
And
fun.
yeah, and then commercials and other things too. But it's there's nothing easy about this. You know, it's like Major League Baseball or something. You know,
I was
yeah.
looking up the stats because my son now all of a sudden wants to be a major league player. He's 8, by the way.
Mhm.
And we were looking up the stats of becoming a major league player, and becoming a TV writer is just, or no, publishing a book. Okay, I wanted to see what the stats were on publishing a traditionally published book.
Mhm.
It was almost as hard as becoming a major league baseball player. I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
whoa, I can't believe, I don't know what the stats on are being a TV writer, but I'm sure it's also very, very difficult.
it is. And as an actor or a musician or anything,
Oh, as an
really,
actor, even worse. Becoming an actor is so hard. I don't know as much about the music industry, but I know it's incredibly difficult.
it is. It really is. It really is. And a lot of times, good just isn't enough.
Mm-mm.
You can be good. There are a lot of people I know that are great.
You have to be
Um,
great, but you have to be lucky. There's such an element of who you meet.
mhm,
And at least for TV, you have to have the right personality. You have to be incredibly persistent. You have to be the kind of person that doesn't get too upset when you fail. You just have to fail over and over and over. That's what I told my son when he's going to learn baseball. I'm like, the first rule of baseball is keep your eye on the ball, right?
mhm,
And the second rule is true of any sport or learning an instrument or any new skill. You have to be okay with being bad at first. You have to
mhm,
be okay with being bad for a long time. It takes a long time to get skilled at something, right?
mhm.
So, TV, you have to be okay being bad. And then this is not true for features for screenwriting, but for TV, you have to like being with a group of people. You have to have people skills. You have to be able to get along with people and not be the kind of person that is like going to be exerting their will because you're working collaboratively.
Right, exactly. It's give and take. It's definitely give and take. It's definitely like an improv game. You pass the ball to the next person. You can't be a
Mhm.
ball hog out there. It's got to be give and take. And Right. I mean, that's the way I run my, murder mystery company. That's the way, I've always tried to be whenever I'm doing, any kind of show, any kind of collaboration. You got to, be a good team player.
Absolutely.
You definitely, be a good team player. Yeah, it's a crazy business, and then I don't know if you've ever seen emails and things get passed around amongst actors and memes and things like that on social media. And another, one thing that I've seen is, why didn't you get the job? You're too tall. You're too short. Your eyes are blue. Your eyes are green. Your hair is red. Your hair is brown. Your hair is
Yeah,
black. Your hair is blonde.
that's right.
You're male. You're female. You're old. You're young. You're tall. You're short. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just so many things are out of your control.
that's right.
And, you just got to do your best. You just got to learn to really appreciate what you do get, I think, you know?
Yeah, and I think you also have to just enjoy the process, right? It's trite, but it's true. If you don't
Mhm.
enjoy writing or you don't enjoy auditioning, it's not going to be a good career for you because most of it is process. Very little of it is success, right?
It is. It really is. It really is. And there's a lot of people too that, again, not everybody. And one misconception that people have. I went to this too. I went to, like a it's like a neighborhood reunion, a number of years ago, and I came, and it was right after I'd done Gotham. Kimmy came out right after that, and then I had a national commercial too, and people pulled. So I got to the thing. They said, "You pulled up in a Dodge, man. I thought you'd be driving some Porsche or something now." And I'm like, no. um, yeah, they have this idea that that all of a sudden if you just have like a something like that, that all of a sudden you're a millionaire, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's not the truth either.
That is not the truth. No, very few people get paid that well. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And there's a lot of unemployment. I think there was for actors. I think isn't it
Right
like the
now, it's absolutely terrible. I have so many friends that have just left LA because there's not enough jobs. That's crew and
hmm
writers because so much production has moved, not just throughout the US, but overseas. We're making a lot of stuff in different countries.
hmm
And then there's less shows being produced, and that is a consequence of the streaming wars and just a consequence of people watching less TV. People are watching YouTube, they're watching TikTok, right? They have entertainment in different ways. So less is getting produced and less is getting produced here. So we're going through a really terrible contraction. It's a really hard time in the industry.
hmm I
So
mean,
the
are you?
advice of don't quit your day job is really good. So for people like me, where it is my day job,
Yeah.
it's a very stressful time, right? Because there's just a lot less of it.
I mean, are you finding that? I mean, there have been a number of it was always New York and L.A., New York and L.A. for the longest time, or in other parts of California too. But I mean, I'm hearing a lot of it. Austin, Nashville, Atlanta.
Hmm.
Or I mean, do you know anybody that have gone to these other
Oh yeah,
areas and have
people.
done well?
So
Or
yeah, so Texas, different places in Texas. The guy who makes Yellowstone makes all of his stuff out there. A lot of people are in Atlanta. Vancouver's been huge for a long time. But now London, oddly, which is strange to me because it's an expensive city, but there must be good rebates.
hmm
And Bulgaria has become really big, and to some extent Australia. So productions are really moving all over the place, wherever they can get the best tax breaks, basically.
yeah, yeah, it was like that in Maryland for a long time too.
Mhm.
Because we had Homicide, we had The Wire, we had The
Oh,
Veep.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Oh, Veep was in Maryland?
yep,
Huh.
yep. The
That looks like
DC in Maryland. Um,
okay.
House of Cards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and usually John Waters and Barry Levinson made their movies here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there was just another one that was just made called The Baltimoreans. My wife and I are going to see it tomorrow night,
That
and
sounds fun.
it was filmed in this area as well. And then there's a lot of low budget indie stuff going on, which is you know they're not all gems, but I think it's an opportunity for people to
It's
learn.
a good way to learn. It's a good
Yeah,
way to learn how to make stuff.
It is. It is. I mean, as a writer and a showrunner, I guess one of the things that I guess is a challenge or maybe an issue for you is the fact that and I picture some of these difficult actors that we've heard about over the years. We've heard the stories about I'm sure when you write a script, you had something in mind and you want it to be just so, and then I've just seen things. I've seen them, like movies where they portray an actor doing this. You're really giving a lot of blowback and everything. Have you ever had an experience like that, or have you ever?
A little bit. So
Yeah.
I've written on a lot of young adult shows and some family shows. So a lot of the cast is younger,
Hmm.
and younger cast doesn't tend to have that diva attitude yet. And then I have worked on adult shows as well, but I've just lucked out and worked with really great
Yeah.
actors so that I have not had that experience. I've definitely heard stories. But a director taught me something really early on because really early on I was covering set and I was only a staff writer. Staff writers don't always or often cover set, but I had the opportunity to do it early in my career. And when you're covering set and you're not the showrunner, it's your job to protect the showrunner's vision. Okay, so the showrunner has told you what he or she wants the scene to be, and you are there to make sure that's what the director gives you. And this actress didn't want to say a line, and it's comedy. In drama, it's easier to just change the line, but in comedy, if you switch the order of the words, you lose the punchline, right? And she wanted
Yeah.
to use the punchline, and I didn't want her to change it. I was a young writer, inexperienced. I was there to protect the showrunner's vision, and I was like, "You have to do it this way." And she wasn't very pleased with me, and she did it.
Hmm.
And the director had a chat with me on a different day, and he's like, "This is a collaborative medium,
Hmm.
and you have to listen to everyone's ideas. It could be the production assistant, it could be the actor, it could be anyone. We all listen to each other, and that's how we get something great." And what I learned from that and from working with actors more as I got more experience is if they have a problem with the line, there's a reason. And it may be a reason that's personal to them. It may not be something that really needs to be changed, but maybe the line is awkwardly written, or maybe it's a word that they don't understand. And if they don't understand it, a lot of the audience isn't going to understand it, right?
Yeah.
Or it doesn't feel authentic to them. And I learned that it doesn't cost that much to change a line or two to keep your actor happy because your actor is what's bringing the words to life. If they're not happy, they're not going to do a good job. So just change the line. I learned to just change the line, right? Unless it's absolutely crucial. And there's some writers that think everything they write is absolutely crucial, must be my way. And, I
Yeah.
don't believe
Yeah.
that. I don't think you should be writing TV if you think that. You should write novels or screenplays.
Right. I know what you mean because I've had in my own experience, I've written a good number of shows for, like my murder mystery group.
Hmm.
And there's times a lot of the script is improv. We have like a story, but we don't have, but there's times where I'm like, I got it. We got to get this gag in here. And then there's like a certain cadence, the way you want it to be said, like a certain rhythm, a
Hmm.
certain way that you want it said. And when somebody just doesn't get that or they flub it, it's just like, oh, oh, I'm sure that just drives you up the wall sometimes.
I
Are
mean,
you? Oh, go ahead. Go
luckily,
ahead.
I feel like they always do. They're
Yeah.
professionals. I have so much respect for them because I can't do it.
Mhm.
Like when
Right.
I have to
Right.
read lines in a table read, it's like, oh, I'm blowing this.
Mhm.
I wrote the joke and I can't deliver it. It's hard.
Are you often there too while the filming is going on, watching and
Yeah.
they're there to consult and things?
Yeah, so it's different in half hour and hour and varies show to show. In 1 hour, the writers are not always on set or even often on set. The director is really given latitude to make it work. In comedy, there's almost always a writer or multiple writers on set because
Right.
if you have to change something, you need someone who can write a joke. It's
Hmm.
being funny and writing a joke are two different things. If I come to a party with you, I'm not going to be cracking a lot of jokes. It's not my personality. I write jokes,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
writing
Sure. Yeah.
jokes is a different process. So you need a writer on set to help
Hmm.
with those lines.
Sometimes I would guess too, you may get an actor who just doesn't get the joke, and you may have to sit there and walk them through it.
Yeah, or change it for them, right? If they really
Sure.
don't think it's funny.
Have you ever? I guess it looks like you've had a good number of shows that are a little more like children and teenager oriented.
Hmm.
So I guess, I mean, have you ever had anybody, have you ever written anything where there was like profanity in it and a actor objected to that, or maybe rough sexual content?
Oh, I worked on a show where it was a fairly young actor, not a kid, but a younger actor, felt uncomfortable with a sex scene.
Hmm.
And they were clothed, but they really didn't feel completely comfortable with it. So we, worked on changing the angles so that she felt comfortable, so that was
Hmm.
less revealing to her.
Right, right.
Yeah, but no,
Interesting.
profanity, no. I mean, no one's ever had a problem with it. I mean,
Okay, okay. Wow, I tell you, there's just so much that really goes into this, people who are, work on these things behind the scenes, trying to make something of this, trying to make some sort of a career or something out of this. I mean, they're just eh, so many challenges that people that are not in the business just really don't even understand, you know. And I really appreciate, both you and your dad really gave us some good, great stories, some great examples, and a lot of, just great things said that I think people would really, not only be entertained but also informed, from the way both of you have been on here, and I really do appreciate it. One thing too, and I guess maybe another thing we were talking about, good isn't always good enough. Having family in the business doesn't guarantee you anything either. You
no,
know.
I mean, the reason I got that first job is because my aunt introduced me to an assistant who I had coffee with. Like very indirect, for sure it helped me, but I was an assistant for 4 years.
Right,
you
right.
know,
Well, that was the thing too.
Yeah, no one's gonna give me a job because my dad's a writer. There's thousands and thousands of people who want these jobs or because my aunt's a director. Why is someone gonna give me a job over someone else? Because on your staff, you get 6 to 10 writers. Everyone counts. Everyone is so important. You're not gonna just give jobs away. The only time I've seen like real nepotism like that, it's very direct parent to child. That's that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
if my dad had a show while I was writing, he was already, moving on to books by then. Maybe he would have exerted nepotism, but
Mhm.
no, it's not that easy.
It isn't. It isn't.
But there are the soft advantages. So sorry to interrupt you, which is
Sure.
that I lived with an amazing writer who taught me how to write. So that's an advantage for sure. Like I was given a skill set. I was, mentored.
Right, right. Well, and that was kind of the approach too that I've heard. Because I've had a number of other guests on who have had parents in the industry, and most recently, I don't know if you remember Nelson from the late '80s. You've Ricky Nelson was a popular singer in the '50s and '60s. You may have heard of Ozzy and Harriet.
Mhm.
He was their son. Then he has twin sons that were musicians too, and there was no dad's going to pave the way and get you this record contract. He was tough on them, made sure that they earned everything that they got.
Mhm.
Was there to prepare them for let them know what to expect and everything.
Right.
But
That is actually a major advantage that I got from my dad because I learned how to manage my finances. Because
yeah.
when you get a job or you
Hmm.
sell something, you can get paid a lot of money, but then you cannot sell anything for another year or sometimes two.
Oh,
So you
sure.
have to save your money. When you get that paycheck, you can't go, okay, I'm buying a BMW now.
Hmm.
You have to like continue. What I always did mentally is think I made half. I made half of that. A big percentage is going to manager, lawyer, agent.
Yep.
Some's going to taxes, but the rest is going in the bank for the days that you don't have a job because it's a you are always an entrepreneur. You are always looking for a new sale or a new job. You never get to rest. So I've seen friends of mine spend their money, then they're broke, and then they have to leave because they can't live here. It's an expensive city to live in. So that's another way actually that having family in the business helped me because I was prepared for how really difficult it is and how up and down it is. I think if you come out here and you think it's going to be easy and you're going to be rich, you're going to be really disappointed.
Oh, I
Because
know. I
yeah.
know. Oh, yeah. I mean, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And there's tons of those stories out there. I think they call, I guess, is it Hollywood Boulevard, the Boulevard of Broken Dreams?
So sad,
Yeah,
but it's
isn't
so
it?
true.
It's the truth, you know. It's the truth, you know. But I just have to say, for as long as I've been doing this, you know, I can at least I've had a lot of fun, you know, regardless if I'm huge or not. You know, if I'm you know, sweeping the nation or just making people around here laugh, you know, I can't complain, you know,
No, it's
honestly.
so fun. It makes the stress and the uncertainty worth it to me
Hmm.
and to you, obviously.
Right. And so you had said, you know, you've been, you know, primarily, have you ever had a desire to act or perform or anything? No?
No, I acted in high school and I did some improv in college.
Hmm.
I did like competitive improv for a while. It was called
Yeah.
comedy sports. Um, but no, I'm not a natural actress. That is not my skill set.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, you know, I mean, everybody brings different things to the table in this
Yeah,
business too.
that's not mine. I'm a good writer and I'm a good teacher and I'm a
Hmm.
good motivator and I'm a good boss. Oh, you asked me, do you want to talk about what a showrunner is?
Yes, yes.
Okay. It's a complicated answer, which is why. Okay. So a showrunner is at least two and maybe three jobs. So the showrunner is the head writer. They're often, but not always, the creator. Sometimes
Hmm.
someone creates it and moves on. The show that I show ran, I was not the creator. The creator is Debbie Wolf, but she had another show on the air, so I was show running. So you're the head writer, you're the head creative. Um, you have a room of writers to help you break stories and write stories, but ultimately you're the one, the final word on the page. You do all the rewrites. You can do them with your staff, but it's ultimately on you creatively. Okay. But then you are also in charge of the creative direction of the production. So you're hiring all the department heads, you're hiring the set designer, you're hiring the makeup artist, you're hiring the actors, you're hiring the casting director. So there's input from the studio. You're not doing it on your own. You don't get to just unilaterally make decisions, but it is, you are the chief executive and the chief decider. So you're in charge of the creative words. You're in charge of the creative direction, which is then put into place by all the other department heads. Then you are managing a budget, and you're managing a budget with other people. Again, everything you do is with other people. You have a line producer, and your line producer really understands the budget on a granular level, but you have to make storytelling choices that align with your budget. You know, if my budget is $1 million an episode, then I can't have 15 drones and a ton of CGI, right? So I have to change my story. So when
Right.
you're the showrunner, the thing that I ran was about witches, so it had CGI, it had magic. That was very difficult on a Disney budget, you know. And so the creative executives will be like, we want more spells, we want more stuff to blow up. And then the line producer says, you don't have any money left. And so
Hmm.
you have to juggle the practical financial element with the creative element. Then you have to manage down. So you have to learn how to be a boss with your writers and with your department heads. And you have to manage up, which means you've got bosses and they're the studio and the network and they own it and they're paying for it. So, like,
Hmm.
you're in charge, but ultimately the studio and the network are in charge. And you have to learn what battles to fight, what battles not to fight. That's really hard. So, a lot of people struggle with this job because it requires really different skill sets. You know, some writers are extroverted like me, but some writers are more introverted. And so managing people is going to be really challenging for them. And it's challenging for all of us because we don't get trained in this. We get trained in how to be good writers. I was lucky and I did the Writers Guild showrunner training, but I did it after I had already done a show running job. So hopefully next time I'll do a better job. I made a lot of mistakes. You know, you're learning on the job. It's a very difficult job because it's at least three different jobs.
Sure. Wow. Well, yeah. Well, good answer. You know, very interesting. Very interesting. You know. Well, Stephanie, I really appreciate you. You know, choosing this show to come on and talk about your new book, and to tell us some stories, and just to tell us, you know, really what you know, to talk about your career and the things that you do and everything. Very, very interesting. And at this point, I'd like to give you an opportunity to do your plugging. Shameless plug time.
Shameless plug.
Shameless.
Thank you.
How did I say that? Shameless plugging. It's It's time for you to shamelessly plug everything you'd like to shamelessly plug with all shamelessness encouraged and no shamelessness spared. How about that?
Okay, thank you, Michael. Well, if you would like to buy my book, you can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on Barnes and Noble. You can buy it on Bookshop, which is lots of independent bookstores. You can buy it. You can order it online through your independent bookstore, or you can check if it's available at your Barnes and Noble or your independent bookstore. I would characterize my book. We talked a lot about the politics, but it's really a fun action rom-com. It's kind of Romancing the Stone meets Emily in Paris. So it's
Yes.
fish out of water. Yeah, is that the issue? It's a fish out of water in another country having fun and an adventure and falling in love. And I wrote it because I wanted to write something that I wanted to read. You know, a lot of literature seems to be kind of divided between very serious literary fiction or very commercial, very light fiction. And I wanted to write something that I enjoy, which is something that's in between those two things, right? That has serious themes, serious subject matter, but is fun to read. So this book is meant to be fun to read. It's meant to be read on vacation or
Yes.
your weekend.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you. So yeah, and if you want to go to my website, it's my name. It's www.stefanieleder.com.
And
if you read my book, get in touch with me. Hit the connect button and let me know what you think.
Absolutely. And just one thing I want to tell the guests too, and I'll put this in the show notes. You spell Stephanie with an F, not a PH, and
That's
which
right.
some
Everything
people do
about my
both.
name is not spelled like it sounds.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Same.
You know, absolute. I've enjoyed our conversation tonight, and folks, you're going to enjoy this book. Love, Coffee, and Revolution, a novel by Stefanie Leder. And I'll tell you about, all about where to get that. And I'm sure, I can put your IMDb link up too. You can look through her credits, and I'm sure a lot of these shows are, you can exist. You can check out her work. I'm sure they're all out there on different apps and things. I'm sure.
Yeah.
A lot of the shows and everything. So, it's been great having you. So thank you so much, Stephanie. I've really enjoyed our chat tonight, and thank you.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes,
Thank
Stephanie,
you so
please
I
do.
forgot. I wrote a short story that came out in a collection last year called 8 Very Bad Nights. It is Hanukkah noir. So yeah, an extremely different genre and tone than this book, which is sweet and naive. This short story is about a narcissist, not a narcissist, a sociopath. Anyway, the book is being re-released this fall in a beautiful paperback, and my short story was chosen to appear in the anthology series Best American Mystery and Suspense 2025. So if you like reading mystery, you can catch me in Best American this year.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, folks, remember that too. So, well, again, thank you so much for joining us again. You've been great, and everybody, like I said before, I'm going to say it again. Get out and get this book. You're really going to enjoy it. It's a fun read, and if you get it audibly too, it's a fun listen. A great reader, and enjoy. So, folks, thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next time. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in tonight to our interview with Stefanie Leder. I hope you really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed talking to her. Her book is absolutely great. Love, Coffee, and Revolution by Stefanie Leder. And again, a lot of great talk tonight about her career in television as both a writer and a showrunner. And I really enjoyed having her. And I think I hope you enjoyed the episode as well. Remember, foulplayersradio.com and youtube.com/@foulplayersradio. You can find all of our episodes there. And make sure you tune in and hit that like and subscribe button, folks. And we will see you all next time. This is Michael Spedden signing off. See you later.